final week of the regular season, and Deion Sanders with his final, at least in-season press conference for us this week. And first off, he was feeling much better than he was on Saturday night. He was in rough shape on Saturday, and he even said he had to, take a lot of medication to get through that football game. He said he hadn't felt that sick in a very long time, but he was much better today, and kind of in old Deion Sanders, Coach Prime form today.
Yeah, and it was Friday night that he had that issue, and I felt really bad for him in the post game because you can tell when somebody's really struggling with it, and he soldiered through that. Said he'd barely remembered the flight home, and we've ripped up our name tags at the end of our analysis video out at Martin Stadium, and Pullman wasn't done with us because we hit some crazy fog leaving there. We carpooled from Spokane. I don't know if you noticed how tight I was gripping the wheel there for a bit because it was hard to see what was in front of us, but back here, catch your breath, and Coach Prime had the Coach Prime energy today that we're used to, and that is the number one reason for optimism, right, is that there's no one else you'd rather have as a head coach from a charisma and recruiting standpoint going forward. And if you were recruiting that room today, you would have felt something, about, okay, he really believes in what they're building here, but it's just been a kind of a catch-22, a victim of their own success and expectations that they kind of set forth that is now kind of backfiring on them. But it's still, when you step back and you take emotion out of it, you still like where things are headed. It's just going to take longer than I think anybody wanted it to be, to get this back to a bowl team.
Yeah, it was sort of a deep press conference today, really philosophical. He even talked about, what does it mean to be humble? He goes, I don't even know what that means. And so there was kind of deciphering, what does it mean to be humble? And so he talked about how he's humble with his God, right? And we've heard that a lot, but he's good with where they're at. He's good where this program is. He says we're going to win. It just like you said, it's not the level everybody wants it right now, is we're going to win. And he talked about some decommitments that we've seen, and he said, I promise you we haven't lost anybody we really want, and he said we're going to get people in here. Buff fans have got to like hearing that, but they've also got to go back it up, right?
Yeah, and it's something that I've noticed as I've tried to avoid a lot of the comments this season, but some of the comments that I do see, it's a lot of just people that have been waiting for Colorado to lose some games, and so they could come out and attack Coach Prime and attack this program. But they haven't seen Coach Prime as much as we've seen him behind the scenes, in terms of there is a humility to him that's not there when the cameras are on, and that's the person that these recruits are getting. Yeah, you get the charisma and the things that drive social media presence and draw a lot of the clicks and do draw a lot of those haters, but he's more of a dynamic person than a lot of people want to give him credit for. And that's one of the things when people ask me about covering him and covering this program led by Coach Prime, I go to the point that there's much more to Coach Prime than what's put out there and what a lot of people think.
Yeah. And maybe this is going off on a tangent a little bit, but we heard a lot, I know I did, that it was going to be a nightmare to cover him. He's been great to cover. As far as him personally, dealing with him, now there's other challenges that come with that. He's different from different head coaches, but as far as him dealing with us and his press conferences, he is really good with us. And I don't know how many times he's done it this year. He did it again today, where the SID is like, all right, we got time for one more, and he's like, no, I'm good, keep going. And we could probably count on one finger how many times that happened in the previous dozen years, right? Coaches cannot wait to get out of there. He a lot of times is like, hey, let's just keep going. And so I will say he's been great with us in that regard, and his personality, he's shown that a lot to us, and I think that I could see why recruits gravitate to that.
Well, he keeps the media on its collective toes, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think sometimes maybe we deserve a little pushback, and not every time Coach Prime's had pushback, it's been towards the person asking the question. A lot of times it's a message he wants to get out there because the camera's on him. But no, I haven't had a problem with that. I would enjoy in the future having more access from a one-on-one interview standpoint. That's one of the things that it's been hard covering this program the last year, is that we'll get players at media scrums, but it's just natural that the questions are going to be all over the place, and it's harder to get to know the players intimately and tell their story the way you would like when we had a few one-on-one interviews at media day. So that's something that hopefully the media covers this program gain some trust to be able to do that down the road. I kind of get it in the sense of year one, getting a lay of the land, getting a feel for the local media here, and not wanting to put your players in a position where they're going to say something that's going to backfire. But going forward, that would be the one complaint I would have. But Coach Prime himself has been a joy to cover, and not to pick on Carl Durrell, but you go into those press conferences and really struggle to come out with anything that was worth reporting on. There hasn't been a press conference that Coach Prime has held here where there haven't been many great quotes and things that go even beyond football,
Right.
more so, which maybe annoys some people that only want the questions to be about X's and O's. But I don't know. As you get older, sometimes you enjoy taking a break from the X's and O's and getting somebody's thoughts and philosophies on things.
Yeah, and there's been a lot more laughter in press conferences this year. Honestly, as we kind of wrap up here, one of my favorite moments of the entire season so far was him thinking Mount Rushmore was in California. As he talked about that today, I thought that was hilarious. And he was, I don't know why, I can't remember why it came up, but he was like, "What's that place in California with all the faces?" And I was like, "Oh, that's in South Dakota." Coach, just really? I thought that was hilarious.
Well, he's an honest person, I like that, but yeah, I don't know how well the presidents would look next to the Hollywood sign. That would look a little awkward.
It would. Well, we're going to be back later on this week. We're going to talk more about the Utah game and Thanksgiving a little bit.